When I was a child, I had an imaginary friend named Max. At first, Max seemed like any other childhood creation, a companion to share secrets with and to play with when no one else was around. But as time went on, it became clear that Max was different, darker, more sinister. My parents initially brushed it off as a phase, but Max quickly became a nightmare for our entire family. It started innocuously enough. I would sit in my room talking to Max for hours. My parents would hear me laughing and whispering, and they found it endearing. "He's just got a vivid imagination," they would say, smiling. But then, strange things began to happen. Toys would move on their own, appearing in places I hadn't left them. Objects would go missing, only to reappear in strange, unsettling arrangements. My parents grew concerned, but I insisted it was Max playing tricks. They thought I was trying to cover up for my mischief, but I was genuinely scared. One night, I woke up to the sound of scratching at my window. I looked over and saw Max standing there, his silhouette dark against the pale moonlight. He had never appeared outside of my imagination before. His eyes glowed faintly, and he smiled a smile too wide for his face. "Let me in," he whispered. Terrified, I screamed for my parents. They rushed in, turning on the lights, but Max was gone. They reassured me it was just a bad dream, but I knew better. Max was real, and he was getting stronger. As the weeks passed, Max's influence grew. My behavior changed. I became withdrawn, angry, lashing out at my family without reason. Max would whisper terrible things to me, urging me to hurt those I loved. "They don't understand you," he would hiss. "They want to get rid of me." My parents were at their wits' end. They sought help from doctors, but nothing worked. Max was always there, lurking in the shadows, poisoning my mind. One night, things reached a breaking point. I woke up to find Max standing at the foot of my bed, his eyes burning with malice. "It's time," he said, his voice echoing in my head. I didn't know what he meant, but I felt compelled to follow him. He led me to the basement, his form flickering in the dim light. As we descended the stairs, the air grew colder, and I could hear a low, menacing hum. Max stopped at the center of the room and turned to me. "Do it," he commanded, pointing to a box of matches on the shelf. I picked up the matches, my hands trembling. "Burn it all," Max said, his voice a twisted mix of excitement and rage. "Set them free." I struck a match, the flame dancing in the darkness. But at the last moment, something inside me fought back. I dropped the match, tears streaming down my face. Max howled in fury, his form twisting and contorting. "You're weak," he screamed. "You'll never be rid of me." My parents found me in the basement, crying and incoherent. They didn't understand what had happened, but they knew something had to change. They packed up our things and moved us across the country, hoping distance would break Max's hold on me. For a while, it worked. The nightmares stopped, and I began to feel like myself again. But Max was not gone. He was waiting, biding his time. Years passed, and I tried to forget about Max, convincing myself that he was just a figment of my childhood imagination. I went to college, got a job, and built a life for myself. But every so often, I would catch a glimpse of him in the corner of my eye, a fleeting shadow that sent chills down my spine. One night, after a long day at work, I came home to find a message scrawled on my bathroom mirror in red lipstick. "I'm still here." Panic seized me, and I felt Max's presence growing stronger. He began to torment me again, whispering dark thoughts, urging me to hurt myself and others. Desperate, I sought help from a therapist, Dr. Keller, who specialized in childhood trauma. I told him everything, from Max's first appearance to the fire in the basement. Dr. Keller listened patiently, then suggested something radical. "There might be a way to confront this imaginary friend of yours," he said. "We can use hypnosis to bring him out and face him directly." I agreed, willing to try anything to be free of Max. During our next session, Dr. Keller put me under hypnosis, guiding me back to my childhood memories. I felt myself slipping into a trance, the room growing darker. And then Max was there. He stood in the corner, his eyes gleaming with malevolence. "You can't get rid of me," he sneered. "I'm part of you." Dr. Keller urged me to confront him. "You have to take control. Tell him he's not welcome." I gathered my courage and stepped forward. "You're not real," I said, my voice trembling. "You're just a part of my mind, and I don't need you anymore." Max's smile faded, replaced by a look of pure hatred. "You can't escape me," he hissed. "I'll always be here, in the shadows." But I felt a newfound strength, a resolve that had been buried deep within me. No, you won't, I said firmly. I'm not afraid of you anymore. With that, Max began to dissolve, his form flickering like a dying flame. This isn't over, he whispered, his voice fading into the darkness. I'll be back. I awoke from the hypnosis, drenched in sweat, but feeling lighter than I had in years. Dr. Keller smiled, a look of satisfaction on his face. You did it, he said. You faced your fear. Max hasn't appeared since that day. The whispers have stopped, and I no longer feel his presence lurking in the shadows. But every now and then, when I'm alone in the dark, I can't help but wonder if he's still out there, waiting for the right moment to return. And if he does, I'll be ready to confront him again, to remind him that he has no power over me. But for now, I live my life free from his torment, grateful for every day that passes without his sinister influence. And I hope that wherever he is, Max knows that I am no longer his puppet, no longer his victim. I am free. At least I think that I am.